Assalamualaikum everybody and welcome back to podcast with Ammi. Today we have a guest, so I would say thoda hatke because normally we've been talking to a lot of school principals, students at school, counseling in school, how to get to an Ivy League. So I see I'm like Sari, generally almost all my podcasts I think would fall into this category. So this would be the first podcast with somebody who has gone to an Ivy League. And then we will also talk to him about, is it really the magic that all Pakistani students are looking for, and is it worth parents like selling their jaidadein and saying कि बस बच्चे को पहुंचा दो? But we will also talk to him about a lot of exciting things he's bringing, including maybe you don't need to go to the US anymore to study at an American university. Maybe you could do it right here in Lahore. So thank you so much, Jahanzaib Burana sahab, for coming. And obviously, I want to start by talking to you about your own academic career, and I hopefully आपको याद होगा. I don't know how many years back that was, but you know, LUMS is probably the destination that every parent wants their kid to go to. अगर उन्होंने पाकिस्तान में ही रहना है, like I think now more and more LUMS is becoming desirable because Trump doesn't want us clearly, and the rupee and the dollar has a massive gap now. So up the LUMS is becoming even more desirable, and getting into LUMS alone log samajhte hain victory hai, but you were a gold medalist and I think you were top of your class in BSc. So how does a student become so successful in school?
So first, thank you, Ayesha, for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here, and especially to get an opportunity to talk about something that one is passionate about, and meet like-minded people who are passionate about the education space. LUMS is a university that was my education experience that I really cherish. I look back at those times as a beautiful time. It was hard. We were the first. I'm class of 2006. We were the first batch after 9/11. तो हमारा सबसे बड़ा cohort था.
Oh, because तब भी admissions.
क्योंकि तब admissions बाहर
So similar to what we're going through right now.
रुक गए थे, and so everybody ended up going to LUMS. It was a fantastic experience. I think what drove great faculty, a great academic experience. I think what I could attribute some of my performance to. So a lot of good luck, but also.
ये तो वैसे मैं नहीं मानती luck. बाकियों की क्यों नहीं luck? जो बेचारा second आता है उसकी luck को क्या हो जाता है?
But also, I think also being an all-rounder is a big difference.
Really?
Because what happens is, and you're seeing that more and more, there's actually a very nice book on it called Range. Because what happens is, people would come in who would just be good in computer science. And then when it gets to taking courses in humanities, their grades would tank. Or people who would just be math people or just econ people. I think what helped me was that, I was able to do well in humanities and math and econ. I was an econ major with a math minor. And so do well across, which kept the cumulative GPA high. So all the way from communication skills to advanced level math course. Agar wo range ho, so you're able to kind of, I think, cope well with what is essentially the purpose of an American liberal arts 4 saal ka education process, where they want to give you that breadth. Literature bahut padha dete hain, so you're able to develop that wider base.
Yeah. So before LUMS, where were you? Which school?
So 3 schools. My earlier schooling was all Shoifat. That is unfortunately gone from Pakistan.
Yeah.
Then I did my GCSEs in London, in a private school called Portland Place, and A-levels at HSM, class of 2002.
So were you brilliant in school also, or did you peak in university? And also, like, just to add to this question, like, so I've been like talking to a lot of counselors actually, because my own kids are now in the profile building age, not the application age. And a lot of counselors are telling me, it's really important to peak late. And obviously, जब मैं student थी, I would come first like all the time. I never thought कि peak late करो, अभी ना पढ़ो. Like, this is a very like alien thing to me what they said. I was like, please don't tell my kids this. I want them to do well in what they're doing today. But for you as a student, were you like topper throughout? And do you agree with this concept of push them when need be? So, no need to push them till they get to O levels. उससे पहले C's, D's भी आते रहे हैं, बस O levels में A stars आए. What do you think of this?
It's a very good question, Asha. So I think what, it's, to me, I look at it as less about peaking and more about developing the right habits early on. I was up to grade inflation इतनी हो गई है and people have like 17 years.
तो एक ही कोई value नहीं है.
हमारे ज़माने में 8-9 age होते थे. So and a lot of people got those A's. So one wouldn't be able to say if I was peaking or not in that sense. So I had good grades in school, but I think early on because of parental pressure involvement, I had developed the habit to be able to sit with something boring for a long time. And that I think is a massive skill that's underrated, underappreciated. Especially now with a lot of the standard cliched distraction world that we live in, the ability to be able to devote yourself for an extended period of time to learning something new and self-learning, to me was so I'll tell you, when I was here in Shorefat, I was heavily tuition dependent. Culture ka part tha,
Yes.
School se 4 baje wapas aao, and then you have a math person and then you have a chemistry person.
Yes. So आपने खुद नहीं, there was no self-learning.
Up until grade 9.
So you just had tutors and they would
Tutors
decide
and
कि
then
क्या पढ़ाना है, कैसे पढ़ाना है, क्या assignment, like spoon feeding.
Spoon feeding, and in Shorefat itself is a very rigorous exam-driven schooling system.
Okay.
The Sabis Jonka network, it's a very exam-driven. So you have weekly tests and daily tests. Right?
Where people say HSM में नहीं होता तो शोएफात जाओ. आप कह रहे हैं कि शोएफात is rigorous.
Shorefat rigorous है. They have their AMSs, which are like weekly exams. Shorefat का बड़ा exam-driven system है. जो एक ज़माने में ठीक था. I would say, is sort of outmoded for today's age and the skills that we're looking for today. But when I end up going to London to do my GCSEs and end up having to do biology that I hadn't studied in Shorefat and new subjects, and I'm all on my own, I think that's where the pivotal change that when I look back happened, because I was on my own, had to cope with all of it on my own, and had to do a lot of self-learning and sit with books and 3 साल का biology का course 1 साल में cover करना है, and I've got a pair
And no tutor.
And no tutor, and so you just have a school and so I think that's वो temptation हमारे culture में, क्योंकि culturally बहुत ज़्यादा है हर चीज़ पे aid की और support की, even admissions process, tuition, हर चीज़ में we overserve, and I actually venture to say we underserve through the formal education system and overserve outside through this
and end up harming our children.
And end up harming our children. उनको self-reliance पैदा नहीं होती. तो वो जो self-learning का process है, I think that's what made a difference for me.
And how many hours? So this is when you were in grade 9, 10, 11?
9, 10, 11, O levels, yeah.
So how many hours were you able to sit and like study and like, would you use any techniques to avoid distraction? Like aajkal, like for my children, for example, since after everybody has smartphones, so my technique, so I read the Stanford study that I quote to them daily, which said that the phone shouldn't just be off and shouldn't just be on silent, whatever. It should be in a different room. And that act showed that, retention increased. So like one thing that you do for children nowadays is phone kahin aur jaake rakh do. But what were things that you did then to ensure that you were, because ek to hai na bas aapne padh liya, but the other thing is that you actually, and I think that's where the differentiation between a good student and a topper is, कि पढ़ा शायद दोनों नहीं 2 घंटे, but like what that a brilliant student gets out of it. So how did you develop yourself?
So उसमें 2 बातें, Asha. One is the ability to be able to repeat it to yourself as a proof of I've learned it, to be able to explain it to yourself.
So how? Like you would
so
read it out loud?
I would actually speak it out loud. So I would actually read something and then as if lecture myself and say, look, this is what this entire chapter is about.
Okay.
So फिर होता ये था कि I could actually go through the book cover to cover and actually open a chapter and say, this chapter is about these 5 things. And so you will understand that. And then in university, what really helped me was a very close friend of mine would study together. And he would ask me questions and I'll be able to, other friends would come together.
So you would kind of teach.
So usse jo, the questions that you haven't even thought of would unblock. And you would really get clarity at a level that. So I think that's isliye peer-to-peer learning is a very powerful technique that we intend to do at our university, support, encourage at our university, which should be done more at schools. क्योंकि होता है कि I'll just tell you a quick anecdote. Okay, there was a professor once at Harvard who, I forget it, so apologies, I forget his name, but I think he was a physics professor. And he gives out an exam, and one of his students asks him, okay, should I do it through your method or through the common sense way? And it shocks him because he thought his method was
the common sense way, yeah.
And he actually essentially gives up on teaching physics and goes and specializes in teaching, right? And how do people learn and how do kids learn? And what ends up being uncovered is that because a professor is speaking from a vantage point जहाँ पे वो anticipate नहीं कर पाता कि उस stage पे अभी learning blocks क्या हैं, but when two peers do it, तो उसमें because we're age fellows and I have been through this once, if I've learnt once, I've probably gone through 80% of those blocks. I can explain it much better than a professor would be able to a peer. So इसलिए peer-to-peer learning is a win-win for everybody, for the person who's teaching and for the person who's asking.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So the two techniques that you're saying worked for you is one, saying it out aloud,
yeah,
and then the second one was actually teaching another child.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So in when you were doing your O-levels, whether you did well as the other students. So LUMS mein, what was it? Was it a personal drive? Okay, I need to stand first? Because abhi you weren't standing first, but we were doing reasonably well. So what was it that you were like, bas maine first aana hi aana hai? And to add to that, yesterday I was talking to some moms from HSN, and obviously boys with privilege go to HSN. And I was saying that, I think that we've killed the drive in our kids. Because when I talk to my kids, and since I go to so many schools, and I talk to a kid from a school jiska shayad zero brand value hai, that kid has some drive. But at these established brands, I don't know why, there's almost no drive, because I guess the child feels कि बस हो गया admission, I am an HSO. I don't know, what do you feel?
So, pehla question, Ayesha, I don't think, I did not go in thinking that I'll be...
You want
I'll be
going
able to
to
become valedictorian, no. I
want my name on the board.
Oh no, not at all.
बिल्कुल कोई ambition नहीं.
See, GPA का idea नहीं होता था, we went in from a O-level, A-level grading system, we didn't know what GPA was, how does it work. वो होता ना, you just end up, I got into Cornell, visa रुक गया था, passport इधर फंस गया.
So you went reluctantly into
LUMS. I went
LUMS.
in and I said, अच्छा चलो ठीक है, let's.
But were you reluctant to go into LUMS? Because a lot of kids जो बाहर नहीं जा पाते are like, LUMS is like our safety.
Anti-climax तो था, because you're all set and हमारा पूरा HSN का batch, we're all set, we're going. But जब एक दफा LUMS आ गया तो I liked it, and I felt at home, and then so some of my friends did transfer after a year and went to the US. I did not. I started enjoying it, but I did not go in thinking I'll be valedictorian. So it was accidental, and I thought कि 3.6 GPA आ जाए तो बहुत अच्छा होता है, 3.5 आ जाए होता है ना कि पहले semester में people are just trying, quarter में people are trying to figure out. But when the first year I was third, I was like, well, it just happened. And then the second year I was second, and the third year I was second, and then the final year I became the valedictorian. So it was, I think the pressure built second year. So once I had become third the first year, gotten a full scholarship, so that's when the pressure took on. But that is how the
Pressure from yourself?
Pressure from myself. Yeah, I've got merit scholarship. I was third, so now I'm in the top 3, so I got to stay, protect that position. But that happened second year. First year was just accidental.
Yeah.
And to your second point on
drive.
Look, I feel very passionately about this, and I think there is a lot that parents can do, and there is a lot that we can, and teachers can do, frankly, through the right kinds of stories and inspiration, role models that we don't do right now in terms of creating any drive for anything in our children. क्योंकि वो complacency इतनी early on set in हो जाती है कि और वो because standard problems, these are pretty much cliché, so मैं कोई नई बात तो नहीं कर रहा, लेकिन आपका because you're perpetually fed with meaningless content.
Yes, absolutely.
आपको mind space नहीं मिलता to find the time to discover your drive. Like how do you motivate yourself?
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, थोड़ी सी harshness, as bullish as it may sound, थोड़ी सी harshness in your environment, थोड़ी सी roughness जो होती है, maybe वो ज़्यादा एक hasrat create करती है for something that you think is missing and you want to drive and you want to achieve that. But in generally, in a certain socio-economic stratum के अंदर where children are comfortable and they have comfortable homes and they have good social life, there is no end goal. It's, you know, everything is there, and then that end goal essentially becomes perpetual entertainment or perpetual pleasure seeking, right, or enjoyment or entertainment. तो वो एक बड़ा real factor है, which I think is the invisible foundation that we don't build.
Yeah.
वो नजर नहीं आती.
Yeah.
There's no official course on that.
Absolutely. But you know, like I don't know, you were just talking about a lot of things. You said that parents can do a lot. So my second son is like an academic rock star. So I gave him this target. Like even though abhi tak we not like abhi tak our work was always okay, become the best speaker, become the best reciter. So this year I was like, Ahil, because you mashallah is so God gifted, so we're going to come first. Like and he was like, why? क्या मिल जाएगा? And you know, because he's very smart, he's like, तो मेरा transcript पे भी नहीं जाना. It's not as if Harvard will care because ये तो मेरी transcript पे भी नहीं जाएगी. And I was like, so obviously कोई logical reason नहीं है. Why should he come first? But I was like, Ahil, I really want this. Like I just really want it. So he thought about it and he's like, okay, fine. And then obviously coming first means कि even a brilliant बच्चा had to study like 6 घंटे, 8 घंटे, like attempt भी करना है अगर to come first across all subjects. So in a class of 300. So and you know, without studying with second, third art, but without studying like this, वो आ जाता. So I was like, this time we're going to cross every bridge. Like past papers में कोई रह ना जाए. मतलब you are going to go to the limit. So 4-5 महीने he did that, and then अभी obviously result नहीं आया. But he was like, you know, Mom, I don't think I want you to set my goals anymore because मुझे कुछ I don't know why I tortured myself for 5 months, but I did. But अब आपने नहीं set करने, and that made me think. Okay, honestly, I feel Pakistani parents set these goals because if you even ask like an A-level student, अच्छा, tell me 6 things about Stanford because your first choice is Stanford, he really won't be able to. He probably has never visited Stanford. या Cornell की कोई 6 चीजें बताओ that set it apart. Yeah, even कि आपने like I went to medical school and I just went to medical school because I come from a family of doctors and I was a brilliant student, so medicine. And I think मुझसे जब मैं अमेरिका गई तो मुझसे किसी ने पूछा why did you become a doctor? And I was like, हाँ वैसे why did I? So I feel often कि as parents, yes, I guess ये हमारी contribution है, ये disservice है कि हम लोग in Pakistan, we are like setting the goals कि बच्चे का दिमाग चलता है sciences करा दो, बच्चे ने HSN की तो decision वैसे ही parents लेते हैं. Is that a good thing to do कि चलो we setting the benchmarks, or is that like my son said कि मुझे नहीं समझ आ रहा आपने क्यों set किया है, but अब आप नहीं करेंगी.
It's a beautiful point, right? So I'll just give you my 2 cents on it, right? I'm not I don't feel I'm fully qualified to, but from my experience being in the education space, I think जो goal set हमें करने चाहिए वो they're less target oriented in terms of what position you should get. You should be more process oriented. Process oriented, I want you to be the best that you can be. Whatever that may be. That might be your third. That might be your average student. But as long as you're passionately giving your best to it, as long as you are developing the muscle to withstand, learning difficult concepts and getting a pleasure out of that. Okay, look, I overcame this. I could not understand it. I did it. अगर वो process oriented goals हों और हम effort को appreciate करें rather than the outcome, that makes a hell of a difference. क्योंकि होता ये है कि I mean, some people may disagree, but I think it's common knowledge in the education academic literature कि intelligence can only take you so far.
Yeah, grit takes too much.
Eventually, effort, grit, hard work, persistence, resilience, all of those grit-oriented are what drive you towards, are the kind of major contributors to success in the long term. Uske liye, the process is important. And so, you know, I have two children, and so I try to, they're young, but I try to encourage the process piece more than, I'm not going to look at your grades, whatever they are, they're fantastic grades, but I just want to be able to see that tum logo process mein involved ho, because that's developing you. Mm-hmm. So then it becomes more of a, then it's not a debate on कि मुझे second आना चाहिए कि third आना चाहिए कि first आना चाहिए. एक ये फायदा हो जाता है, दूसरा ये फायदा हो जाता है कि अगर नहीं आता, so there's no disappointment because that's
what what's wrong in being disappointed?
Early on, I said, so yes, life disappointments देगी, उससे resilience आनी चाहिए. But early on, जब आप habits develop कर रहे हैं ना, I think उस वक्त ये habit develop हो जाना ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि हम एक mechanistic mindset में operate करते हैं, we give an input and we expect
an output. Yeah.
Button दबाते हैं, something happens. If that output doesn't come and it doesn't come twice or thrice, we might doubt.
The effort,
capability नहीं है, we might start doubting the wrong things.
Yes.
तो वो self doubt से बचने के लिए early on, तो maturity के बाद तो you understand what life is about. But early on was formative phases में, I think it's critical कि बच्चे, we're talking about बच्चे, they develop a belief in themselves that I can overcome challenges and I can learn and I can I have those capabilities. I can trust my capacity to learn something. I would take something as a challenge, I'll put myself to it, and I'll come out on the other end. वो वाला piece हमारे पूरे वो ये narrative missing है. ये narrative क्योंकि हम grades को reward करते हैं.
Yes, grade. I think valedictorian का नाम I'm sure LUMS के किसी board पे आता होगा.
There's a board medal.
Yes, HSET also has a lot of boards. FC, all these colleges. Yeah. So वो तो it's like a piece of history है. You've made it.
You've made it. You're there.
But it would be an interesting study to see कि जिनके नाम King Edward actually did the study. So I went to KE and my name is also on the board. But then there are people जिनके नाम 6 boards, 7 boards में. So actually, I think somebody did do a study, like a छोटी सी study, to see कि जिनके नाम इतने ज़्यादा boards पे क्या वो जिंदगी में amazing doctors बने? And the answer was no. Yeah. Actually, so in medicine at least, this is like obviously not a study you can extrapolate. Like in KE के जो toppers थे, who would probably be the most brilliant minds, could not translate that into clinical success.
Yeah, no, वो तो.
So LUMS should do a study.
They should. क्योंकि एक चीज़ और भी होती है ना कि so one of the things that you really used to encourage at HBS, Harvard Business School में, जो it was very hard to actually follow that advice, was कि don't take a course for the content but for the professor.
Yeah.
Because that's where the learning is going.
Yeah, exactly.
अब उसमें जो smart बच्चे थे HBS में, the top 1%, I think, who get a Baker Scholar. I think it's top 1% or 2%, who get a Baker Scholar, who have a first year honors and a second year honors, दोनों सालों में honors. What happens is you get students who are taking courses to make sure they ace the courses.
Yeah, ताकि वो Baker Scholar बन जाए.
Comfort zone में रहें. तो जो risk taking है, वो by inherently by the nature of who you become, if you become that person, you become risk averse and you choose easier courses.
आपको पता आपका इसमें A star
आ जाएगा तो मैं यही ले लेता हूँ, which is
मैंने पूरी जिंदगी economics पढ़ी है तो वो तो आए, but let me stay away from accounts because वो तो मैंने
which is compromising your
learning,
which is your learning. तो उस perspective से अगर देखा जाए, so to take the case study that you were quoting, I would actually argue that might hold true in other places.
Yes.
अगर आप life में you are not the
risk
taker and therefore sometimes the ability to take hard decisions, etc., etc. I can look back now. So I've been out of LUMS for 19 years now. I can look back and say, easily look back and say, it's essentially the quality of the choices the decisions that you make. And nobody teaches you how to take those decisions, how to make those decisions in life, right? हम उसको इतना shallow level पे process करते हैं, just kind of go along.
Yeah.
हमारी सारी intelligence or academic excellence does not reflect in how we take decisions in life, right?
Yeah.
And therefore, I would actually be very surprised if the valedictorians somehow
Are outliers.
And also, the last thing I'll say on this is also the quality of life, right? The happiness in life. Because I look back and I say, okay, look, how much of, yes, standing out and...
So were you happy at LUMS?
I was happy, but...
Because work-life balance to skew hota hai. If you want to become valedictorian, you can't say, okay, I had a fantastic work. Like, that's exactly what my son was saying to me. He's like, I wasted the last 5 months. I did nothing that I wanted to. I missed all my friends' get-togethers just because aapne mujhe kaha, to ab aapne kuch nahi karna. So I understood what he was saying, that whatever balance he wanted in life, sab kuch skew ho gaya na, ki chalo, mahane ka ek hi goal hai. And I would always tell him throughout that month, कि देखो goal तो तब achieve होता है, and there's just one goal. And he was like, वो तो मेरा goal ही नहीं था. So what? But I was like, कि चलो Ahil, you make your mom happy, but आगे set your own goal. Because obviously there is no logical reason for saying why should he come first in grade 8. Like, यही आप कह सकते हो ना? I was like, I want to wear a new joda when you come first. Literally, and he made me realize how ludicrous my demand was. But then I told him कि अब goal ले लिया ना, stupid है कि कल मानता है. Yeah. So coming to Harvard, right? So Harvard is like the epitome of success. A rishte wali auntie. Like, this is not, I'm not kidding, it's actually true. So I was like talking to somebody for like a rishta of a friend's daughter, and I was like, uski demand hai कि American University का पढ़ा और अच्छी American University का. This rishte wali auntie, who I don't think has ever traveled outside Pakistan, was like, हाँ Harvard का चाहिए. I was like, auntie आपके पास अगर Harvard के है तो please भेजें. She was like, नहीं वो वापस नहीं आते उनमें से कोई नहीं है. But basically like Harvard की मतलब demand in Pakistan, I don't even know because in some disciplines Williams is better, in some you would say, but no, across the board, you go from any university, मतलब a counselor की career बदल जाता है, earnings triple if they get a kid into Harvard. A school's worth increases, like if you get into Harvard, and also you got into Harvard Business School, which is even more competitive than the undergrad. Like a lot of the people I know who would do undergrad would choose subjects thinking कि हमारा eventual game. Because I think Harvard Business School के बाद your salary is like $1 million, or I don't know, like there's this fallacy कि बस Harvard Business School चले जाओ and you are set for life. So how did you get to Harvard Business School? आपने ऐसा क्या किया?
So I don't know. I don't know. But I think what helped, now that I understand the education space more, so I got rejections from, I'll tell you where I got rejections from. I got rejections from NYU.
Really? Yeah. No way.
It came in first.
NYU rejected you and HBS took you in.
Stern rejected.
Wow, Stern में तो.
First rejection IT, and then
wow.
And then I got a rejection from Johnson & Johnson at Cornell, Unka Business School, and I think my third.
Dyson? Unka Dyson?
Johnson & Johnson.
Johnson & Johnson.
And I think my third one was Foucault at Duke.
Wow.
My first admission was INSEAD, and then Wharton, and then HBS in terms of.
Wow. So it's kind of, you don't really understand why they rejected you of HBS.
And then eventually, I think Stanford put me on a wait list, but by that time I had accepted Harvard. नहीं उसकी समझ आती है. So when they look at an application, because business schools compete on, and these schools compete on the ratio of how many offers did they send out, and what percentage accepted. They want to keep that ratio high. So when they look at an application,
so they want me just को letter भेजो वो बंदा चलाने
so when they look at an
yes.
application, they say no, this kid is probably going to get into a better school.
Oh,
they wouldn't.
That's why NYU said
so
no.
They wouldn't send them an offer. Because they know they don't want to waste that. They want to keep that percentage high. So when I rejected, for instance, Wharton, they would actually say, "Kyun reject here? Which of the school are you going to?" Right? So because they would want to then. That's how the
so that's why NYU and Cornell were like, "Hamara to
That's what I probably
nahi."
think. That's what I probably think. I mean, that's the best explanation. That from the admissions
That could be true.
space that
Yeah.
one would look at.
That's also why I think safeties reject students targeting like a good Ivy League, and when they see कि आपके पास grades अच्छे हैं,
तो आप
so a lot of the safeties are like no. And बेचारे का भी Ivy League में नहीं होता, so he's sitting with like
yeah.
18 rejections.
HBS का admission business school का process is a pretty rigorous one. They do a full-fledged interview.
After the initial screening, or everybody goes for an interview?
No, so 50% go, 50% I think are taken out by the time you get to an interview.
And what do they look at in that 50%? The essays, the grades?
I think essays play a big role.
Because grades don't matter, or they do?
I wouldn't say they don't matter. There is an overall profile that they're looking at. Being a valedictorian at LUMS, I think, was a great help because it does help you because you need to be एक ये part है. दूसरा, then their interview is a big process. It was an hour-long interview. They ask you like real business case questions off the cuff, kind of where you have to be able to think, and they want to see if you can think smartly, right? They actually give you. So I was actually given a business case study.
Udari, like during the
phone day, and it's not even a Zoom, right? This is not even Skype. This is actually a phone.
Oh, so you don't even have a face.
No, you have a mobile phone, and those are साथ की बात है ना.
I'll probably Zoom पे होगा.
I'll probably on Zoom. Also, HBS does not do alumni interviews. जैसे INSEAD अपने alumni से interview करवाता है.
ये HBS खुद करता है.
HBS के अपने admissions officers होते हैं जो करते हैं. So I think all of that, my interview went well. I thought it went really well because they put me through a hard case on. वो जितना आपके answers की sophistication को देख के they keep on going harder and deeper to see के. मतलब एक मेरा तो एक ही process था. There's just one sample that I'm speaking from. And I think the third piece is they're also looking for diversity. So आपके पास, so I would actually say if you are working at Goldman in New York, there are
every
200 Goldman applicants.
Yes, that's true.
They would probably take 5 Goldman students.
And वो सबने apply किया होगा.
सबने apply किया हुआ तो आपका वो. But if you're from Pakistan.
Did you work after LUMS? You applied straight to HBS?
I did a bunch of entrepreneurial things. I had, my family comes from an agricultural background, so I did a bunch of random life choices that I realized, but the realization that I think this is what's interesting me. What's interesting me is a business degree. तो वो आपको एक diversity दे देता है because interview में, so in interview process में one of the things that it asked me was so there was a conversation about my town, there was a conversation about how does that impact my leadership choices and how do you deal with people of the village, right? So so having gone through the case study methodology of HBS, where the entire curriculum is not taught through textbook but through case studies.
Cases, yeah.
And where class participation is generally 50% of the grade. So you're really expected to understand the case and contribute. You realize that diversity of perspective कितना ज़रूरी है, because that's what's the secret sauce of a good case discussion, where you're able to look at and bring very different solutions to the same problem.
Yes.
So I would say HBS is I have tremendous respect for the school. Amazing respect. Respect also for बाहर से, I can say of HBS as a business school, and I'm sure it holds true for other schools. But बाहर से वो लगता है कि शायद it's called the West Point of capitalism. कि शायद everybody's out there to network and अपना मतलब निकाल के and card exchange and you just kind of. But it's a school that has very deep values in a very, very deep way, where जो genuine human connections हैं, regardless of what you would get,
what your net worth is,
or what you would get out of that person, or how you would use a person for your advantage, by the mindset say. The way the faculty showed up, the way my classmates showed up. So I would say the only real asset that I have and that I cherish out of that school is the friends, the network that I have, and the great faculty, the great people that I was able to learn from, and the great classmates that I continue to learn from, because they're all doing very varied things in life all across the globe.
So your degree at LUMS was?
BSc Economics, Bachelor's in Economics, BSc Honors Economics, with a minor in math.
So both your degrees were kind of, I guess what people would call general degrees, and then there's this full debate. I think maybe Trump was the one, I don't know, Trump says so many stupid things, so maybe he also said this. But somebody said, you know, if you're going to a business school to learn business, you should just not do a business. Because a lot of people believe, like I went to journalism school at Columbia, and the big debate at that time, and up to even that debate is redundant, because was, do you need to come to journalism school to learn journalism? Because most journalists have learned by doing journalism, right? From like teaching, learning from editors. Editors are your biggest teachers. And now, obviously, since everybody with a smartphone is a journalist, so up to would debate it differently more daily. And do you even need journalism per se when everybody's a journalist? But similarly with business, a lot of people to date say, like my husband recently went after like running successful businesses to LBS to do a business degree, and everybody was like, कौन जाता है in his 40s business पढ़ने, and कोई point है, मतलब ये कोई degree है, you're just going to party. And for business schools generally, even for business undergrads, people are like, is this really a degree? Like, why don't you just, like I had a book writing course at Columbia, and I remember my professor would always say, if you want to write a book, just write it. Like, ये क्या के पहले कोर्स लो, फिर सीखो लिखना, फिर जाके लिखो. They were like, if you want to make a film, make it. So I think for business also people say, कि अगर business करना है तो go do it. What is this fancy shashka? What do you feel? I mean, is there a point of business schools? Are they now extinct? Should they just close their doors?
It's a big debate, Ayesha. So, you know, is an MBA degree still relevant? Is it worth the cost? Etc., etc. I think, as I said, I think one big advantage continues to be, and I don't know how that will evolve, continues to be the network of friends and relationships that you form. And I think that is probably one of the biggest assets that you get out of that. The ability to be able to pick up the phone and call somebody across the globe in a very different industry. And so वो सारी ज़िंदगी काम आता रहता है. I've been out of business school for 15 years, and I know that it's of great value. So that's if you like, a separate point. But to the point कि उसका actual content value क्या है from a learning perspective, pedagogic उसकी value क्या है? You know, so दो चीज़ें हैं ना. There is entrepreneurship and being an entrepreneur, which does not require an MBA degree. It
doesn't require any degree.
It requires actionable information of an industry where you have insights.
Yeah.
And you know how to then go out and build a business around those insights, right? Monetize those insights, etc. But MBAs are not just entrepreneurs, right? MBAs are going into your classic large corporates and becoming part of your typical industries, private equity hai, which I became a part of, investment industry hai, aapka, big corporates hai, and so on. Consulting ki duniya hai puri, the McKinseys and that of the world. So wo abhi bhi, I think still continues to, although as of the last placement report of HBS last year ki, all the big consulting firms hired a lot fewer
really?
MBA grads, yes. So
is that an element? Is that because of the recession or something else?
I don't know if this is AI, starting to
affect our jobs,
and because especially जो entry level positions हैं या junior level positions हैं उसमें से बहुत सा काम, as people are saying, is starting. You feel that it's starting to get kind of crowded out by AI. But अभी उसकी आज क्या relevance रहेगी? If I could go back, I would do a technical undergrad and an MBA. So I wouldn't do a bachelor.
Because both your degrees were kind of what we would call general.
I wouldn't.
General.
I wouldn't do a BSc economics today.
You would do a BSc computer science.
I would do a BSc computer science
with like a minor in AI.
Minor in AI or math, because I think math is a very undervalued skill set because it teaches you how to think.
Yeah, that's true.
Mujhe it helped me a lot in terms of.
And then you would do an MBA.
And then I'll combine that with an MBA. So let me add to that. Whether you do an MBA or you go to law school and do JD, America ki baat kar raha hu. I don't know the British higher education system well, but if you were to go to a 3-year JD program at any of the good schools, जो असल unlocking है ना वो एक बड़े, it might sound sort of philosophical, but actually ability to think नहीं आती लोगों में even late into their careers.
Yeah.
We continue to make, I can say this with a degree of, मैं यहाँ पे जब एक public sector role में था, and I was interviewing for a certain position. That was my only time when I got to like interview for a finance kind of a position in Pakistan. You get CFAs who would not know the relationship, kind of geeky, but who would not know the relationship between a balance sheet and income statement and a cash flow statement, which is like a very basic
thing,
ABC of it's like finance 101.
Yeah.
तो वो आपको जो ability to think and process information, a complex piece of information, and realize कि, how do you actually think, how do you actually process, that is such an underrated ability, क्योंकि हम generally अपनी professional life में जाके, होता है ना, when you're a hammer, everything seems like a nail. आप जब professional life में जाते हैं, you get put into a space and you become good at that one thing, and then wherever you go you have that lens on. तो वो जो आपकी ability होती है to be able, which is needed now in the AI world, where human judgment would probably be a precious asset. Your decision making would be a precious asset. Your ability to handle unpredictable situations would be a precious asset. It's even more valuable. तो जो आपको business school, law school का, especially जो case study method है, I think it does a very good job of, because you're not learning from a text and asking questions. You're being given, वो law school में हो, even medical school में हो, जहाँ we're looking at clinical cases, इस patient को कैसे handle करना है. So we're not just doing textbook. That I think is critical. अगर वो किसी और context में हो जाता है लोगों का, some people get great mentors who are able to teach them.
Exactly. But that is what you feel is the biggest one.
That is the ability to think, I think, is going to be the skill that I want to emphasize from an educationist perspective.
Okay, so the last question on Harvard, and then we'll move on to what you're doing nowadays. So, with the rupee dollar depreciation, now it's like a massive financial burden on parents. Okay, and also because most universities are not need blind for Pakistani students. So it's a massive financial burden. And with Trump cutting down federal funding, the burden is just going to become bigger. अगर आपके बच्चे का हो गया admission, Cornell, कहीं भी, Harvard, Columbia, etc., to pay, like parents now need to make massive sacrifices, like sell plots, sell cars, mortgage their homes, because it's no longer, what it used to be. And considering that we do have LUMS in Lahore, do you believe that, even if a student gets in, maybe would he lose out by going to LUMS, or do you feel that LUMS would also give him a lot, so maybe he doesn't have to go? जो पहले it was like not the forbidden fruit, the most sought after fruit, कि बस बाहर की अमेरिका की डिग्री चाहिए.
So it's, I am emotionally and intellectually conflicted in answering that question, because I have a lot of respect for LUMS, given that it's a great institution. It was the first one to set, at least in this space, आपके engineering में की है, there are other good universities. But LUMS was the first one इस space में, humanities and economics, and then eventually computer science. And now they're across in engineering, they've expanded massively to set a very high standard in an American-style 4-saal undergraduate program. Actually, honestly, I would shy away from one blanket answer, because situation to situation, they will have to make that judgment call. जो political हालात हैं वो एक अपनी जगह होते हैं, those are factors that come and go. उनमें कोई permanence नहीं होती, I don't look at that as a permanent problem. 2-3-4 साल का period ही होता है ना,
Yes.
Things change. You go through one regime to another regime. But going to a good education quality education program in Pakistan, whether that is Khan, whether that is, medical MKE, whether that's LUMS, whether hopefully I believe NIT, whether that's GKE. The reality is would remain the most viable option for the overwhelming majority of
But
students.
in terms of quality, would that be a massive compromise? Okay, Cornell and our top universities.
No, not a massive compromise.
Really, but
No.
ratings show otherwise. Like I think we're below, like I think even LUMS is like 146.
नहीं, उसकी वजह है ना, देखें आपकी रेटिंग्स और रैंकिंग्स की जो पैरामीटर्स हैं, they're a lot research driven.
Yes, and we don't have those fundings.
The reality is, and that's been one of our motivating factors behind what I'm doing now, is आप कह सकते हैं कि मैं यहाँ बैठ के हार्वर्ड बन जाऊँगा. Harvard's endowment fund is north of, God knows, $50 billion. That's an endowment fund.
Is that more than our national debt?
Probably. And if they're making, say, 8%, 9% of the endowment के जो results आए हुए थे उनके investment returns, they're making about 8, 9 to 11%. MIT, Harvard, all of these big endowments, 8 to 11% की range में they've made last year, right? So if they're making about $5 billion a year, which is funding research, which is funding massive amounts of publications, no university in Pakistan, हमारी research, the reality is, whether we like to sugarcoat it and put it euphemistically, but the reality is that our research generally ends up staying in our universities. हमारे shelves पे पड़ी रहती है, कहाँ publish होती है? जैसे economics में I can speak to econometrica है, आपके top tier publications हैं. एक तो लोग होंगे पाकिस्तान में जो publish कर लेते होंगे a few times in their lifetime. क्योंकि और उनका कसूर नहीं है. This is not to blame their capacity as researchers. This is to blame the ecosystem and the resources. क्योंकि research कैसे होती है? आपका colleague next door is, आप हार्वर्ड में बैठे हुए हैं, MIT में एक बंदा behavioral finance कर रहा है, आप HBS में बैठे हुए हैं, you've teamed up with a person in Stanford and you're now coming out with a new study in expansion. तीनों के पास resources हैं, तीनों के पास network है, तीनों के पास mentors हैं. वो सब कुछ नहीं है available. तो जो मैं ratings को तो therefore I look at them with a pinch of salt. बात यह है कि teaching की quality क्या है?
What is it comparable?
So I would say I haven't been to an undergrad program outside, right? I went to LUMS. My brother did, so my brother went to NYU to Stern for an undergrad program. I can say when I speak to other friends who went, I can say कि यहाँ पे हमारी क्योंकि generally you would have the same books. अच्छे professors आपको पाकिस्तान में you've got good faculty. I was, for instance, happy with my 4 years LUMS program. I found very good faculty, same content. So when I did go outside for the MBA program at HBS and was with classmates who were Harvard undergrads or Stanford undergrads, Princeton undergrads, I did not find myself, I was a second year honors at HBS, I did not find myself at a disadvantage from a learning perspective. I was not at a disadvantage. And that's not because मैं valedictorian था. I think anybody who
you made use of their
seriously,
time.
yes, made use of their time at LUMS. The resources were available. And now with your ChatGPT and AI in place, ASU ने Arizona State University ने partner किया है Khan Academy के साथ for a global school, which has created this personalized AI tutor for everyone, right? It's like a personal tutor who actually walks you through each concept. And wow. The only thing missing is your willingness to learn.
Yeah,
but if that willingness to learn is there,
there's no way you can't compete.
There's no way that, because more and more now, it's a big debate going on in the higher education space. More and more now, what will start to matter is, आप देख रहे हैं, Harvard has gone online, MIT has gone online, but काफी अरसे से you have these what are called MOOCs, massive open online जो courses हैं. Content सब available हो चुका है, right? So you have the same content taught online and things like Coursera taught online by the same professors. That content is there.
Yes.
हाँ, missing piece क्या रह जाएगा? Missing piece is
your class
global exposure
Your peers.
Your peers and the cosmopolitan outlook when you...
And also I feel it's going to become like what we used to call softer skills are now going to become like the most in demand.
Yes.
Because like just how do you talk to people? How good are you at getting them to collaborate? And which is why I feel that our schools with their ethos of competition over collaboration are like stuck in the 1980s.
Yes.
Like why are you teaching like a grade 2 May, you're giving out awards to like the best speaker. That is an outdated concept that we should have left behind like 40 years ago. It's not important who the best speaker is at all. But what is way more important is how your child is helping others develop their oration skill, whatever, like what initiative. So yeah. Okay, so coming back to what you're doing now. So एक तो आपने Harvard की degree करके you committed like the cardinal sin and you came back. So वो जो सारा आपको फायदा होना था millions of dollars of income वो तो I'm sure रुक गया. And then like you're doing something else which is quite out of the box. That you left like these very prestigious jobs first in private equity and then with the government of Pakistan and you're like मैंने entrepreneur बनना है. जबकि people in Pakistan are like अच्छी नौकरी नहीं मिली तो अपना काम करो. You're doing everything reverse. First you came back after Harvard, which you should not have, according to public wisdom. Then you left like prestigious naukriyan with green number plates. And then thirdly, you're doing entrepreneurship at a time when almost everybody, if you were to believe Facebook and Twitter and TikTok in Pakistan, it is the worst time to invest money in Pakistan. And आप अरबों रुपए invest कर रहे हैं. So आपको क्या हो गया?
So quick edit on that. I did not come back immediately. I came back
After making a couple of millions.
No, I came back after about 8 years.
8 years.
So I came back about 8 years after business
Why?
school.
Why would you come back? I'm sure your salary and lifestyle there can't be matched.
No, so that's true. So two reasons, right? One was a family reason. I wanted to be closer to parents, closer home. Once that was a big factor for me. And the second one was that Pakistan ka narrative has always excited me. We are heavily underserved market across sectors. And education space is a space that's close to my heart, very close to my heart. And I think it is an industry, as I would like to put it, it is an industry of broken promises.
Yeah.
आपकी बहुत ज़्यादा हम वादे वईद किए जाते हैं.
Yes. Everybody who opens a school promises the
school, university,
the world.
आपको ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा. But the reality is कि क्योंकि choice नहीं है बच्चों के पास, that's the reality, affordability issues हैं, जिस वजह से it has become an industry of broken promises. और जहाँ वो सब चीज़ें जिनकी हम बातें कर रहे थे, where अगर कोई value दे भी रहा है, so that value is still in the 1990s, kind of molded, उसमें couched है, rather than speaking to the demands, the skills and the kind of talent that will be demanded moving forward. So that's that. Why? So that's the why behind why I am bullish on Pakistan and why I think that it's home. So I think why there is a need to create value here. And honestly put, the value is not. I don't want to sound ED Saab. It is because it is not a non-profit.
Yeah.
The entrepreneurship is a bet on creating value.
Yes.
But in a way, but in a way that's sustainable. Because sustainable profit making. Yes, because it has to be sustainable. क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ बहुत सी चीजें I feel एक culture बन गया है जहाँ पे doing something good has to be couched in कि grant charity driven है.
Yeah, exactly.
और मैं एक selfless योगी हूँ जिसको कोई desire नहीं है to be able to create something large in terms of enterprise. जिस वजह से बड़ी hypocrisy आ जाती है आपके अपनी personality में भी and what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's important to be upfront and explicit about it कि opportunity Pakistan में है to create value. And we have to say कि opportunity Pakistan में है to make money.
Yeah.
मैं जब government में था investment promotion agency को lead कर रहा था one of the consistent problems, Ayesha, that happened was your international investors would come in and they would look at Pakistan as आपको grant देते थे.
जैसे USAID.
हाँ, जैसे USAID is not an investment making agency.
No.
We should be talking to sovereign wealth funds.
But we don't. We should be talking to the VCs.
We should be talking
and
to
I
large.
always say this to like the US consulate or anybody who invites me for this reason. And like we no longer want handouts.
Yeah.
We want partnerships. Why? But you will notice this, that especially women-led businesses from Pakistan, nobody is putting us in front of the VCs. Obviously, अब LinkedIn है तो आप कोशिश करती रहें 100 में से शायद एक जवाब आ जाए. But it would be so much easier if the US consulate, instead of calling people who work on poverty alleviation, forget that, calls people who work on how to scale a woman-led business. You know,
Yeah.
वो नहीं होता because we are constantly considered to be a nation of handouts. But coming back to you, तो जब आपने ये like you know you took these steps that are not like common wisdom dictates against, that you leave a cushy job in the US and you come back, and then you leave a prestigious job in the government and you're like, I want to do an entrepreneurship, and then you decide to do it at a time when everybody's like, Paisa डूब रहा है Pakistan में, run, sell your properties. But did you not hear people or your family say, I don't know what you're doing? Like, what is going on with you? Is this a midlife crisis?
No, it's been a very difficult journey. University में, so in NIT, National Institute of Technology, we are, I'm doing it with an old friend of mine. And for us, it's Jahanzaib, so we have similar sounding names.
Yeah, Jahanzaib and Jahanzaib.
Jahanzaib and Jahanzaib. It's been a very difficult journey up until now. एक part of the process, I don't want to get into the process of what it takes to set up a chartered university in Pakistan, federally chartered university, and if somebody spends some time Googling, or I don't think even Google will do justice to it. It is a very difficult, long process. We have been at it for 5 years.
So, आपकी ambition थी, you and your friend, to set up a federally chartered university.
Yes.
And then, was it part of your ambition to also bring back the first American university to Pakistan? Was that the original plan?
So, actually, very bluntly put, the desire was, it's not going to sound great, but the desire was कि state-run institute नहीं बनाना. You have to have top-tier corporate governance and top-tier academic standards, so that कभी भी किसी stage पे भी profit seeking does not become the motive for the university.
Yeah.
When you have a partner like ASU.
ASU is like just for
ASU is Arizona State University. It is, if not the largest, one of the largest public sector universities in the US.
तो इनको आपने क्यों चुना? आप खुद हार्वर्ड गए थे, आपने हार्वर्ड से क्यों नहीं बात?
Harvard, so blunt reality is Harvard doesn't go.
But did you go knock on all the doors of multiple universities? कि आप लोग गए ही Arizona के
No,
पास?
so we really like ASU for a very specific reason.
Were they the first ones you guys went?
They were the first ones we went to.
Oh.
And there was a reason. It was a deliberate, courting, because ASU has been consistently ranked as the #1 innovative university in the US. They're the most entrepreneurial university. If you look at them, they were the first ones to become official partners with ChatGPT, with AI.
Oh.
They were the first ones to partner up with Salman Khan on Khan Academy for a global school. They're operating right now like our campus, 27 campuses around the world. They've just signed up to set up the first American university in Saudi in Riyadh with the government.
So that will also be called ASU.
No, that would be called the Saudi American University.
Powered by
ASU. They're operating one of the largest universities in Egypt for President Sisi called Galala University,
Wow.
powered by ASU. So a benefit.
So you could see that they had done this similar.
In similar markets.
But उधर उनके साथ king था, government था, इधर there was 2 men with a vision. So how did you?
No,
वो भी उस वक्त I think unemployed ही होंगे जिस वक्त उन्होंने ये सोचा. तो how did you convince them?
No, so, I think it took a bit of back and forth. Naturally, professional due diligence on both sides, from their part and from our part. But I think very quickly we came together because of chemistry होती है ना बहुत जल्दी develop हो जाती है और वो chemistry होती है around a common way of thinking, a common vision, and they found in us a partner that they thought to be ideal in terms of we're going to build something from scratch where we would have the ability to design the entire blueprint from day one. तो ये नहीं है कि कोई existing university को आप convert कर रहे हैं जहाँ एक inertia पैदा हो जाता है ना, and you
Yes.
So you can put in all of those very high quality standards across the university ecosystem, आपकी governance में, आपकी recruiting में, आपके हर aspect में. So I think that's what excited them. और हमें जो चीज़ excite की थी वो ये थी कि, you know, this is the first, the largest public sector American brand that would come to Pakistan, that has gone global and that has that vision. MIT नहीं आएगा.
No, Stanford नहीं आएगा.
University का अपना model नहीं है ना.
Yeah.
But they aren't.
And we're not that big. Like आना ही है तो India क्यों ना जाए?
नहीं, और price points भी है ना.
Yeah.
So for us, the fact कि ASU ने agree किया कि rupee based pricing होगी, affordable होगी.
So can you walk us through what will happen? So a student comes to, so the university in Pakistan is called National
Institute of Technology.
ठीक है. So and आपने मुझे कहा कि August में you're opening admissions.
इंशाल्लाह जी.
तो इसमें भी I'm sure SAT देना पड़ेगा बच्चों को.
So हमारे जो, you know, so admission requirements standard as per HEC's requirement, because we are a federally chartered university, A levels, FSC, FA, SATs as entry exams.
SAT is an HEC requirement or a
No,
ASU requirement?
ASU की requirement नहीं है. We would put in place our own entrance exam test. बच्चे वो दे दें, SAT दे दें. It's an option, right? जैसे LUMS का.
LUMS का, yeah.
Right. So you can go through that admission process. बच्चा आएगा NIT के अंदर हमारी 2 faculties हैं, 2 initial big buckets हैं. There is a business degree and there is a computer science degree. Business degree के अंदर we will have 2-3 programs. BBA है, standard है, marketing का program है, etc. So there will be a few programs under.
And the teachers will come from?
The teachers will come from Pakistan. Content सारा, the entire ASU's content is our content.
So the syllabus, the curriculum, what to teach, when to
is
teach.
all ASU but aligned with HEC's requirements.
Okay.
And that's critical.
Yeah.
क्योंकि आपको एग्जांपल देता हूँ कि आपका बच्चा इकोनॉमिक्स की टेक्स्ट बुक पढ़ रहा है या बिजनेस पढ़ रहा है और वो बिजनेस में केसेस कर रहा है. अब आपके बिजनेस के केसेस में आप सिर्फ अमेरिका के कॉन्टेक्स्ट ही समझे जा रहे हैं. दैट्स नॉट मच ऑफ अ वैल्यू. देयर इज सम वैल्यू, देयर इज सम कॉमन लर्निंग्स, बट आप ये भी चाहते हैं कि उसको पाकिस्तान स्पेसिफिक भी कॉन्टेक्स्ट पता चले. तो वो ज़रूरी है, राइट? वो बच्चों की यहाँ लर्निंग एक्सपीरियंस के लिए ज़रूरी है. सो ASU's curriculum but added with an alignment with what's going to create value and make them relevant in Pakistan. तो वो ज़रूरी है from an academic perspective. बच्चे आएंगे.
Will you have visiting faculties? कि no, their faculty will be entirely local.
हमारी primary जो faculty है वो local है, but आपका ASU का सारा online content हमारे पास है. So we have license to. ASU is probably the largest online creator of content. Coursera पर भी, right? And HEC is already has a lot of their, you know, has been wooing them, has their Coursera courses. So massive, you know, 3,000 plus courses across AI, across, I mean, you name it, right? So massive content is available to you. Plus we would have online sessions, online, you know, interactive sessions. Plus आपकी अच्छी quality of leadership management is sitting on the board of NIT. So in the management committee, we have some of the top tier representation
ASU.
of ASU,
Okay.
right? So आपकी जो governance, day-to-day governance है, because I want to emphasize this is not like कि हमने उनका brand ले लिया है, अब यहाँ पे हम कुछ कर रहे हैं. This is powered by ASU, which means they're operating it. They're sitting in the management committee, they're involved in recruitment.
Okay, so they do the faculty interviews.
They are involved all the way end-to-end in recruitment process. They're involved in the IT systems that we are using, in the learning management system that we're putting in the student experience that we're creating, because we want to create a student experience that's really, really
authentic to
authentic
ASU.
and you know, one of the things that's really, you know, resonated with me in terms of ASU's charter was ASU prides itself not on the basis of its exclusivity, but on the basis of its inclusivity. कि कितने बच्चों को मैं
Because public sector है ना.
Public sector है और उनके जो president है माइकल क्रो, उन्होंने बड़ी मजे की किताब लिखी है, The New American University. It's like a new paradigm. It's like a, because Clinton was on their board for a while, you know, it became like a new paradigm of where would higher education go?
Yeah.
With America में student debt is a massive crisis.
It is,
right?
yeah.
By the time we get to higher ed, students graduate with a lot of debt
Yes.
on them. तो आप quality education को affordable कैसे बना सकते हैं, both in the US and globally,
Yeah.
was something that really resonated with us. हमारे Pakistan में one of the things that really excites us as part of this mission इसके आपके पास ASU का सारा content हमारे पास है licensed है, and we have the license to translate it into Urdu.
That's amazing.
अब आप ये देखें कि आपके कितने बच्चे बच्चियां जो formal education process से drop out हो जाते हैं. हमारा आयशा मैट्रिक तक पहुंचते 84% drop out rate है.
Yeah.
84% of your children are out of the formal
Yes.
education process
Yeah.
by the time they're 15-16 years old.
Yeah.
तो आपका हायर एजुकेशन इतनी सी जगह रह जाती है. ये जो 84% बच्चा निकल गया है, इसका क्या pathways है? So can we, with our first campus in Lahore, can we actually roll out a digital network that can provide pathways through ASU certifications and through the online
Yeah.
master's
Even if
content
you don't
that we
have metric,
even if you don't have a formal degree, खासतौर पे बच्चियों
you could do a certificate.
वो ज़माना गुजर गया ना जहाँ अभी तक आप women empowerment की बात करते हैं तो सिलाई कढ़ाई कराना शुरू कर देते हैं. Why can't they become great digital creators?
Yeah.
Why can't they become
Absolutely.
now with AI? Why can't that revolution happen?
Yeah.
How do you get the mass market here that has been kept out of
Yeah.
participating in jobs because वो formal pathway of education में वो बेचारे drop out हो गए?
Absolutely.
How do you take them in, and how do you help them make meaningful livelihoods?
Yeah.
तो वो चीज़ हमें बहुत excite करती है. Our first campus in Lahore is we look at it very much as a beginning and that's what excited ASU, frankly. कि जो impact है, you have a market of 250 million.
So the impact is much beyond
जो
just a
आप
campus.
affordable developmental impact create कर सकते हैं
That's
meaningful
massive.
way में across Pakistan, और इसलिए the desire to become federally chartered so that we could operate
Yeah,
across
across.
Pakistan.
So the fantastic thing that you told me is that the 4-year degree program, students can do 3 years here and do the
They'll be able
4th
to
year
they could do a 3-year, 3+1, so they could do a 3 years
here and go for the 4th year, and then they would get a degree from ASU
They'll get 2 degrees. They'll get an NIT degree
and
they'll
an
get an
ASU.
ASU.
And then they can also choose 3 years here and 1 year online, which
Or
would
they
be
could do
cheaper.
which is क्योंकि
Yeah.
जो एक साल वो directly ASU के साथ करेंगे, they'll have to pay ASU fees, or they could do that online, which would again entitle them to a dual.
So that's fantastic. That's the first time that American degrees
Yes.
could potentially be, I mean, not entirely done on Pakistan soil, but like 75% of the work would be done on Pakistani soil.
Yeah, and cost difference massive है ना.
Yeah, because आप लोग तो rupees में charge कर रहे हैं.
रुपीज में चार्ज कर रहे हैं, लोकल प्राइसिंग लोकल मार्केट के मुताबिक कर रहे हैं, अपनी कॉस्ट को देखते हुए. ASU is what it is, it's, for international students. तो हमारा बच्चा अगर जो वहाँ जाके 4 साल पढ़े versus 1 साल पढ़े और वो भी ऑनलाइन
So वो 1 quarter cost
तो
होगा.
1 quarter cost होगी. फिर इसी तरह in a year from now as we introduce the master's programs, we will have like a 1+1 master's program.
कि 1 साल तक कर लो, which is
Which is
fantastic.
fantastic for at a graduate
Yeah.
level कि आपने यहाँ से करके, and if you were to go there, then potentially, if you intended to stay in the job market there, you have an option there. And I've been approached by friends in GCC, for instance Saudi में, who have been saying to me that given the massive beautiful growth story of Saudi in the recent years,
Yeah.
and the amount of investing that they're doing in
Yes,
AI,
yeah.
they need human talent.
So if you could provide it, why?
And given that we have an ASU partner in Riyadh, in
Yeah.
Saudi now, we have a local regional footprint जहाँ हमारे बच्चे we could become a feeder for talent into Saudi.
Which would be fantastic. That's the biggest job market now.
Local है, पास है.
Yeah,
And
Muslim.
there's a massive demand. There's a massive demand not because the human resource वो tech आपको पूरा एक talent का stack है जो build करना है. So yeah, we're pretty excited about it, inshallah.
No, that sounds fantastic. So last question, you're investing so much time, money, like you've already invested 5 years into this project, and I'm sure Abhi, this is the beginning. It's going to take many more hours, probably a lot more capital, a lot more effort. Do you fear that it could fail? Because this is Pakistan where anything can happen. The HEC can change their requirements. The government can put taxes. Or students can just be like, listen, kuch bhi hai, humne is mulk se jana hai, which is, I feel, the biggest tragedy of Pakistan, that the most promising want to leave a promised land.
Aisha, वो fears तो होती हैं. So, to be honest, there are unknown unknowns that you never know. Okay? I know that there are things that are hard to predict. But जहाँ तक known बातों का ताल्लुक है कि regulations change हो जाती हैं, etc. Those I don't fear because I think वहाँ हमारा process काफी, while it's long, it's mature. ये कोई नया sector नहीं है. HEC has done a great job over the last many years. 20-25 सालों में बड़ी changes HEC में भी आई हैं. और उनकी वजह से I think ये बड़ी change थी जो I think starting 2013 आई कि in the education landscape in Pakistan कि private sector was allowed to come in the higher education space where you saw Aisha हमारी जो private sector universities हैं they almost doubled starting 2013 up until now क्योंकि आपकी public sector universities accommodate नहीं कर पा रही थी the rising demand for higher ed, infrastructure नहीं था. तो आपने प्राइवेट सेक्टर को इनकरेज किया कि आप आओ एंड यू चार्ज अ फी एंड यू प्रोवाइड क्वालिटी. उसमें आई हैव बीन पार्ट ऑफ अ वेरी शॉर्ट टाइम. आई sat in a couple of meetings with the Punjab Higher Education Reform Commission when I was in the investment board exclusive official capacity में. There is a lot that of course still needs to be done to bring us at par with global standards. लेकिन I believe, very strongly believe, कि across political lines and across various stakeholders in Pakistan, education is a sector that everybody agrees we need to go north in. और जो हमारी attempt है in bringing in a massive global partner in Pakistan at a time when not many people are willing to risk their brand to come into our market, or itna bada mature education brand, I think is a sign of belief in the market, because it is a statement that ASU is making by saying, look, we are going to Pakistan. So it's a big statement, and I therefore hope that, inshallah, as we move forward, things will become easier, quicker, and we will be able to deliver the value that we really, really, really hope that, inshallah, this becomes a transformative institution where you can do all the things that we're talking about, from soft skills to thinking capacity to becoming competitive for the job market, becoming self-reliant for entrepreneurship and so on.
Great, well, best of luck. I think come August. August is very close by, you will meet.
Inshallah, no, we're
When are you opening admissions?
So hopefully, inshallah, in a month. We are a little late because हमारा charter अभी हुआ है, so just charter came a month ago. वो एक लंबा process होता है, so
I'm sure.
we waited some while. But शुक्र है हमारा charter हो गया है, we've got a federal charter, which is a massive achievement. So therefore we are now
ready,
and inshallah our classes I think start October.
And last question, do you feel that the success of this university will be dependent on the hard work you and your partner do, or do you also believe in what we in Pakistan turn to as like a default, give us naseeb sahi, or do you believe that it all comes down to naseeb, or is it really, if it becomes successful, and let's hope it does, will it be because the two of you put in that hard work and had the grit?
So look, I have my biases and I have my...
Excuse me, 95% कैमरा हीट अप हो गया है, किसी
बस ये
टाइम
आखिरी
पे
चला।
बंद हो सकता है.
Okay, ठीक है, जितना हो गया रिकॉर्ड.
चलें.
So I have my biases in terms of my spiritual leanings, and I do believe that naseeb plays a big role, and there's there is a divine hand that one can only do so much. लेकिन वो कहते हैं कि let me just put it this way, I think hard work is a necessary but not a sufficient condition. तो इसके बगैर नहीं हो सकता था, लेकिन I'm sure there's lots of other luck and नसीब is a big part that plays into it, but इसके बगैर नहीं हो सकता था, right? Because people actually would come to us and say, hey, why are you doing this, right? 5 साल, the opportunity cost of what else could have happened.
$5 million का वो चेक
तो इसलिए इंशाल्लाह अल्लाह ताला इसको we hope.
Great. Thank you so much
Thank
for coming.
you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you everybody for watching. We would love to see your comments, your likes. Definitely send us your feedback and keep watching. Khuda Hafiz.